Two. Welcome everybody. This is the ETC's web task force for the AV over IP project. If you weren't able to join us last time, we did a nice pre-conference workshop in Iowa. I see that Mike's on the call and a lot of faces that we saw in person there too. And after that conference, we were tasked with delivering that same kind of content to people who weren't able to attend and to keep that momentum going throughout the whole rest of the year. So we've got a lineup of this session, and we're planning 8 more between now and the next conference that'll be on Tony's home turf at NC State. And today we're going to hear about prerequisite skill sets and learning opportunities for staff as it relates to AV over IP, of course, and also how to talk to network people and some basic, security considerations. So that's what's on the docket today. We've got 2 presenters to bring to you. We're going to start with Adeline Tatum. She is going to talk about the skills and learning opportunities. You likely know Adeline already. She's an AV and IT training coordinator. She works on the ITS Digital Spaces services at UCLA. You may know her from her past life at USC before that. So welcome, Adeline. Looking forward to your session. After that, we're going to hear from John Schranker. He'll dive into how to talk to networking folks, talk about security and some of those other things. He's the manager of classroom technology and AV systems at the Rochester Institute for Technology's Center for Teaching and Learning. So welcome to both John and Adeline. And if you've got your slides ready, Adeline, let's hand it over to you and begin.
Hello, everyone. And Jim, I sent you a message. No, I am not able to find it. Not even in the email.
Do you want me to pull up just what we used in Iowa?
It's the same one. Yes, sir.
All right. Give me just a moment and I will.
Been a busy, crazy week. I am so sorry.
Can somebody nod or thumbs up? Do you see it yet? Yep. Okay, cool. Adeline, take it away and think of a really creative sound to tell me when to turn the page.
I am ready.
Of course, it didn't start from the slide I had.
Thank you, Jim, for your help with this. It's great to see everyone. And if you weren't at when we were in Iowa, you surely missed out, but we're hoping to see you this year, right? There's always a second opportunity, and this is our second opportunity from last year's show. So here we go. So I'll be sharing about prerequisite skill sets and learning opportunity for staff, things that we should try to include into our team, into our department outside of the technical side. We know when we hire people in that they have the technical skills because that's what we go for. But we must remember that we need our team to also have the soft skills. We need them to have that customer service piece. So a part of that, first of all, we have to make sure that they have the communication skills. The communication skills is going to be able to allow them to complement the technical skills, because when you go to someone to offer support, you can't just go to someone and be all, passive aggressive. You have to know how can I help you? That's the active listening. I'm going to tell you what I need to be, what's happening, what's going on. Then you ask a clarifying question. Oh, did you try this? Can I try this on your system? So it's all about teaching our techs or engineers or everyone in our AV industry, managers, everyone, know how to actively listen, know how to ask clarifying questions for clarity so that they'll be able to support them. Have empathy. Not everyone is tech savvy like us. And that's a flaw in our system, in our industry, AVIT. We feel like everybody, because technology is a new era, everybody knows it. No, we still have some traditional people. Yes, they want to learn, but we have to be the one to guide them through this process and let them want to learn it. Because if they have a bad experience that one time, they shut down. So having those nonverbal skills is also a good way to complement our communication skills. Because when you approach that customer, that client, that staff member, whoever it is you're going to support, they could feel your energy. So if you go there all angry, trust me, they feel that energy. So you need to have that nonverbal communication part of it as well, down pat that, okay, I've been to that office about 6 times, but let me breathe before I go there because I want to go with a positive spirit. So that is something. Feedback when it comes to communication. Let's look at feedback as critical feedback for our own improvement. We're humans. We're imperfect, beautiful human beings, but we're all make mistakes. At times, I may think that I'm speaking to you in the nicest way. Come to find out that I'm a bit loud, as you can hear me now. I'm a teacher, though. But if you were to ask me, why are you so loud? I would probably say, oh, I'm a teacher, one, and two, it's a part of my Belizean culture. We speak loud. You wouldn't know that unless I share that with you, right? You would think, why is this girl shouting? Why does she always seem to be like so? But no, that's a part of, so that those are some things that we need to consider when we're communicating with our clients, with our customers. And of course, take that feedback and go back and reflect on it for your own self-improvement. This is something that I highly recommend, especially for leaders and managers, because we do need to make sure that we are setting that path. We're setting that example. We're modeling it for our staff because they're watching. Maybe a student worker, maybe a client, maybe a customer. They are watching. You know, they always say the camera is on. You don't know who's watching you. It could be a child that is watching you. So we got to make sure that we stay grounded and stay, at at our best. Second, team collaboration, improved teamwork and collaboration within and across departments. So for this portion of the soft skills, it's all about when you're doing your cross-departmental projects, sharing the tools and the platforms, the interdepartment workshops and training, offering mentorship, reaching out to other departments, having those conversations like, hey, I know that we don't directly work with you, but we cross path, maybe in an email or something. So just maybe taking a break from your main task and say, let's have coffee. Let's go for a walk. Let's cross-reference different, if you can, even over, Zoom is the thing. Hey, do you have 15 minutes? Let's have coffee over Zoom and talk about our favorite game. Do something. Just lighten the load. It's also self-care for yourself because we can get bogged down in our emails. We can get bogged down in our work. But you need to remember, if you're practicing, like I said, it all back to practicing and modeling, right? Building these relationships, your team are watching that. So this is my own personal experience, having an open door policy that, guess what? You're welcome to come into my office. You're welcome to come see me or shoot me a Slack message and see if I'm available. I will make time for you. That might be just a mental break of 5 minutes, but I'll tell you, okay, I have exactly 10 minutes, or can we reschedule? But you let your people know that I care and I'm here for you. So that type of collaboration as well, right? Problem solving. Develop critical thinking and problem solving skills to tackle technical challenges. So outside of our technical era and our skills and our degrees and our certification, we have to know what's the root cause of our analysis. We have to know how to break down complex problems. We have to know how to create troubleshooting guides and testing guides and hypotheses so that whatever we're working on, whatever we're tackling, we have the data to back it up. So even if it fails, look, we did X, Y, and Z. We collaborated with these different teams. We asked outside of our organization for help where was possible, because we can only reach so far. But doing these type of stuff under the soft skill, getting in that project with your team, right? And even if you're just a fly on the wall as a team player, I love it because you're there. You want to see where we're going. You're not going to say anything because by right, you're the manager, you're the director, you're the executive director. But hey, I do want to take a few minutes and see what you're doing. Maybe I could just offer a little you know, something to trigger your brain to think about things a different way. But other than that, I'm just on the side here watching in on how you're working. Team members, I know department, when you're building that environment within your department to be all inclusive, it's always great as a manager, as a director, as executive director to peep in on certain things. So that's what I have for you all. So I encourage you to do these next steps. Hopefully, moving forward, that you would schedule training sessions, right? Whereby you can have your team collaborate. You can have your team work on those soft skills. You could arrange periodic training, which at UCLA, my bad, we schedule programming now. That's why it's in bracket. It's not called training anymore. With certified trainers to help your team to be able to know how to network, know how to come together, know how to agree to disagree, because that's okay too. Like, I feel like people feel like, you know, I should out. No, we can agree to disagree and still get the work done, you know, in harmony. So those are some of the trainings that I would recommend, having those retreat to take a break, which, as an example, we're actually having a whole group retreat next week, 2 days over in UCLA Arrowhead, one of our locations. And we're basically going to do some great team building activities because every so often you need a refresher. You know, people will get bored. And that is also continuous learning where we're promoting culture, we're promoting, you know, staying up with what's going on. Because outside of learning and having that technical part of the training, like what we're doing here, we'll have some fun with it. So those are good things to put maybe in a budget. And it doesn't have to be something major. You don't have to go spend an overnight. You can do something maybe right on your campus, just taking away a day and getting someone professional to come in and help you with this. Or who knows, you might have from different departments that have trainers and you can just like the collaborating piece, right? Oh, can you come in and do a training? Because if someone from outside your department, even if it's within your organization, comes in and do that training, it is received better than having someone within the department do it. So just a keynote. And then just collaborate, sorry, with IT teams. Work closely with your IT teams, with your integrators, integrate AV over IP solution effectively because it may cost a little more now, but better it costs a little bit more now than down the road. Later, you got to go and do everything over. So make that investment is my recommendation. Next. And the final piece of this whole training is the college level courses, right? We work in higher ed, majority of us, right? Take advantage of courses and opportunity that the school offer, that your university offer, that your vendors offer. There are places like for sure, like I know LeBron. They have a beautiful program that you could go in. Avixa, you know, Educos. Take advantage of all these training. QSIS, Extron, Freshron. I could name more. Sorry if I missed your company, right? But I'm just listing a few. Feel free, John, to throw some in the chat for me if I missed any, because I know, and we're all here for that same reason, because we want to make sure that everyone is receiving what the necessary skills they need technically and the soft skills that they need so that when they get out there and present themselves to whoever we're serving, we're doing our best job and we're moving our AV industry upward, right? That people could come back and say, hey, that AV industry is, you know, I want to get in that. How do I get in that group? So that's what we want. We want to motivate and uplift people, and it starts with us. Thank you all. Any questions, please let me know.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much. We're going to switch gears and go over to John for how to talk with networking teams.
Give me a second to
Yep.
bring up my slides. All right. Are my slides up?
Got them. Yep.
All right. I'm John Schranker. I'm the manager of classroom technology and AV systems at Rochester Institute of Technology in Rochester, New York. And I was lucky enough to participate in the pre-conference workshop with Jim and Adeline and a lot of other great people. I'm going to be talking today about how to talk and work really with your network team. So building on a lot of what Adeline was talking about, taking it to the next step. So basically the key points here are that we are going to, you're going to need to make your network team your best friend. If you're going to do AV over IP, you're not operating in a bubble. You're not running it over your cable anymore. You're sharing this media, and you're going to need to work very closely with them. To do that, you're going to need to learn the language. You speak a different language than they do, and there's going to be a lot of learning on both sides to make that happen. You're also going to need to build trust, and you got to do that by sharing knowledge freely back and forth on both sides. And last but not least is you're going to have a sandbox to play in, and everybody's got to be welcome in that sandbox. So we'll drill into each one of these independently. So the first thing you need to do is engage them in your projects. How does it happen? Well, every year my team and our network team, I know, sit down and develop their goals for the year. And in the past, they didn't care what our goals were, and we didn't care what their goals were. But now, our projects affect theirs, and vice versa. So we need to be aware of what's on their agenda. They need to know what's on our agenda. We need to understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, why their goals are important, and where they're going. What's their roadmap? If they're making changes to the network, which is happening here at RIT, they need to involve us so that we know. And we had just a real minor thing recently. One of the buildings we put 4 AV over IP classrooms in a building that did not have any this past summer, and they worked fine all through the fall semester without any problems. We got into the spring semester, and all of a sudden we started having some pretty significant issues. Well, come to find out, they did some maintenance on the switches. Should have been minor maintenance, should have been transparent. It disrupted some things. So it took us a little while to hone in on that and figure that out. Again, that's learning on what we need to do in terms of communication back and forth. Another good example is when we're doing our projects. As I'm planning, they need to know, and I found this out too, because it can impact how quickly they can respond and their ability to respond. How many classrooms we plan on upgrading over the summer, where those classrooms are, because the switches in those buildings at their current state may or may not be able to support the AV over IP. They're constantly trying to update switches, but our schedule and their schedule may be different. And if we're putting it in buildings where they don't have enough power over Ethernet or switch ports because it takes a lot of switch ports, they need to have time to shift and accommodate that. I've also started, even when we do that, not just telling them how many drops we're going to need, but what kind of drops. Are they just network drops? Do I need PoE? Do I need PoE plus or plus plus? That affects the power budget. So if their switches don't have enough, if those network switches can't provide all the power that my devices need, again, they may need more switches. We may need to look at powering those devices externally. We need to have that kind of communication. Clear, open communication. So it doesn't just happen around the projects. It has to happen all the time. And we do that here. We have a Slack channel that my team and the network team share. So anytime they're like, hey, just wondering, are you guys aware of this? Have you thought about that? And we do the same thing back and forth. If we run into an issue, we certainly open a ticket. That's the process. But then we throw it out on the Slack channel. Hey, we're running into this. This is what we're seeing. Have you guys done anything, or are you aware of this? We're able to get things taken care of much, much quicker. And the same thing, aside from the Slack channel and the email, we try to work with them face to face. If we've got a project going on or if there's opportunities, we'll we'll actually get together in a room and work on these things together, and it builds those relationships. The other thing, though, the caveat to that is you have to respect boundaries. You need to know it's okay to ask questions, it's okay to share information, and you want to learn and understand each other's, but you need to know I can't tell them what to do with the network. That's their job. I can ask them. I can tell them what my challenges are. I can tell them what I've learned and how it might affect things. But at the end of the day, I need to trust them to do their job. And likewise, they need to trust me to do my job. So we need to have that respectful back and forth where we make suggestions, but we aren't making demands of each other. Learning the language. So go beyond the basic understanding of networking. A lot of folks coming from traditional AV understand very little about how the network works and the language. So when you try to talk to the network folk, they are throwing out terms that they think are common, and they're just glancing past you. Ask questions. You might need to take some courses. Likewise, we do the same thing on our end. We need to let them know what some of these terms mean. And learn how the campus network is configured. That matters too. There is no one way a campus network is configured, or any network is configured. We had a real challenge. The major AV over IP project that we did a couple years ago, where the AV integrator came in and they made all sorts of assumptions about how our network was configured. And almost across the board, they were wrong about those assumptions. And it resulted in some major issues that we had to work through together. And understanding how the campus network is configured. So that might be VLANs, how subnets are configured, where routers are, where traffic has to go across routers. So a good example of this was they were assuming that this one building was a flat network, all on one subnet, and they were planning on using Dante in the building. Well, Dante doesn't traverse subnets, so it wasn't working, and they were running into problems. There were a number of possible solutions, and what we ended up doing is we pivoted to AES 67. But again, both Dante and AES 67 are very foreign to our networking team, so we had to bring them up to speed on what these are, what they require, how they work. Likewise, we had to understand how the network was configured, what changes might need to happen. So there were changes made on both sides to the network configuration as well as to the AV design as a result of that. And I already said translating the key AV terms into language they can understand. Just as much as you might get frustrated about them using terms and you having that deer in the headlights look, they don't understand all the terms we're using and the differences in what they mean. And we might even be using some of the same terms and using them differently. So those are things we need to be aware of. Power is gained by sharing knowledge, not hoarding it. I'm a big believer in that. We try to be, fortunately, the manager of the network team and myself have very similar philosophies and approaches to management. We're both very transparent, very open with what we're doing and why we're doing it. Being able to ask very direct and blunt questions at times, like, why do you need that? It's not a challenge to, do you really need that? It's a question of deeper, I need to understand why you need it. What are you trying to accomplish? Because a lot of times, whether we mean to or not, we've all had that happen where somebody comes to us with a solution. I need this. And when we talk to them and we try to understand, well, why do you need this? And they get defensive. Well, when you get to the bottom line, what they're saying they need won't do what they need. Once we understand what they need, then we're better equipped to say, well, you know what? That's not going to work for what you're doing, but I have an alternate solution. And you need to be able to do that back and forth, sharing that knowledge. So the more we know about that, what you need, the easier it is for them to help you. And again, involving them. One of the things that made this project, it was massive and could have been a complete disaster, but we spent literally not just hours, days and weeks, where we were having three-way calls and Zoom meetings with the AV integrator, my members of my team, members of the networking team, then the network switch vendor, and the vendor we use for the AV over IP gear. I'm trying to be as agnostic here as possible, but there were, not all the calls involved everybody, but we were working across the board. So we were talking to their switch manufacturers. They were talking to our AV integrators. Everybody had to be working together. Developing standards. So one of the big things we've developed out of this, we have a standards manual, a standards guide. That gets updated every single year. It's what gear and how that gear gets configured. New gear gets put on there, old gear comes off. We try to, there's a lot of good manufacturers out there for this gear, and I'm not going to say one's better than the other. But having all that gear on your network isn't going to work. We have a standard way of doing it. Then our next step is on my agenda for the coming year is to come up with a technology evaluation cycle, because we don't want to get caught in the trap of, this is what we do and this is what we continue to do because this is what we do. We do need to evaluate that, but we can't be changing it from year to year. We need to be consistent in the way we approach it and consistent in the way, and also manage that change, have change management in place. And then one of the big things that helped us is having a test bed, a sandbox. We have extra gear. We can we have gear and we have network switches and we have all that, and we can set it up and we can play with, all right, what's going to happen if we change this setting? We think this is the way we want to set up a room. We can set it up. We have displays. We send signal and we play with interfaces and interface settings. Excuse me. We invite our network team into that sandbox. And likewise, sometimes if we need gear for that so that we can test how things work, they've got gear as well, and they'll bring gear into the picture. So share your toys, work together, show them, sometimes you got to show them exactly what's happening. We've, setting your bandwidth settings and all that. And we've even given them access to our AV gear, and likewise, they've given us limited access to some of their network tools so that they can go into our, network DSPs and other gear, and actually, if they're seeing something go on, they can log in, they can see exactly how much bandwidth it's using, where it's sending it, all the error logs, things like that. They don't have to wait for us to hand it to them, or vice versa. We've got network tools that we can see the same sorts of things. And again, that goes back into the respect the boundaries. They've given us access. We've given them access. We don't make changes to their gear. They don't make changes to our gear. So, and you don't get there overnight. It's a process of building that relationship and trust. And last but not least, these devices are now sitting on the network. So there's a lot of ways to configure AV over IP. The way our IT does it, every single one of our AV over IP devices is sitting on the campus network, exposed to the campus network. And this is something I don't fully understand. You'll have to talk to our network team if you want to understand that. Our campus network is public facing. So all of our AV over IP gear is public facing. We're working on possibly putting it on some VLANs to move it so it's not quite so public facing. It gets hit all the time by hostile traffic and brute force attacks. So we need to make sure that our information security office is involved. We need to make sure that we have a patch management plan. We need to be consistently, if AV's just in a room, having the latest firmware may or may not matter. When it's on the network, it's now a security consideration. Those patches become extremely important. Having a change management plan is important, and that's something we're working on, because if we start rolling out these patches and then we find out that there's a security flaw in one of the patches, we need to know when it was changed, what devices have been updated, what devices haven't, how we need to remediate those things. And again, I can't stress the importance of regular communication and check-ins with your partners. So that's what I've got. Hopefully I didn't go through all that too fast. And I think now we've probably got some time for questions. I'll let Jim sort of facilitate that.
Yeah, please. While folks are thinking of questions, I had two for you, John.
Sure.
Is your standards manual that you said you've worked on with those other departments, is that somewhere that our members can reference and that we can look up online and find ourselves?
I don't have it available online, but what I do is I'm more than willing to freely share it. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, I shared it with other institutions, and I'll be quite honest. I found we didn't copy what they have, but we copied their format and used it. I think it was University of Nebraska at Lincoln. One of the guys that works for me found theirs. I liked the way they approached it. I emailed them and they sent me the Word document, and I've changed it, and I'll be happy to do the same for anybody else.
Sure. Maybe we can get a copy of that for Doug to put into the archives of the Resource Advisory Committee and help folks out that way.
Sure, happy to do it.
Others with questions, feel free to raise your hand, or if you'd like, unmute yourself, type it in the chat, whatever you like. Another one I wanted to ask you, John. You talked about sharing tools, they let you into some of the network systems, you let them into some of the AV systems, and you figured out some efficiencies. Aside from just getting the installation done, completing the project and making the room work, what are some added benefits that you figured out along the way? Can you remotely reboot things and do different, troubleshooting steps and things like that that you might not have envisioned before those processes?
Yeah, exactly that sort of thing. So we're figuring out how we can be more efficient and effective. Because RIT is a big campus. It's not as big as a lot of others, maybe not as spread out as UCLA or some others, but it takes us time to get places. And when rooms are down or something's not working, the ability to remotely access things or remotely reboot things. One of the things we're literally just starting to use are networkable PDUs so that we can reboot anything that's plugged into it. Because sometimes the devices stop responding. And it's great that I can remotely access it and remotely reboot it, but being able to actually power cycle it might be important. Especially we've got we found with some of our wireless network microphones that have a WAP, wireless access point. There's a big difference apparently between rebooting the device and power cycling the device, even though in theory it should be the same thing. In reality, there's times when it needs to be power cycled.
Yeah, sometimes things hold logs, or
Yeah,
you get a different kind of a fresh start from different levels of a reboot. Yeah.
right. And then the other side of that is that only addresses things that are plugged in. Things that aren't plugged in but are getting that PoE, we currently don't. We haven't gotten that level of access, but we can't recycle the power through the PoE port, but we can contact. That's where the Slack channel comes in handy. We can throw it out there on the Slack channel, and there's a few people over there that can do that, and they'll power cycle the correct port for us.
Gotcha. What kind of things did you learn along the way with, student employees, for example? Were there access issues to overcome, or was there required training, or, how are they vetted and blessed to participate in this and help support your team in the same capacity?
That's a great question that we're still, I'll be honest, like I said, warts and all here. We're still kind of sorting through that. So I guess it's not a big secret, or it doesn't have to be. We're using Crestron NVX. And so one of the things we're doing right now is trying to figure out the best way to use XIO Cloud. And what we can give them access to is read-only, because we don't let the students in, and what we don't. And a lot of it comes down to how we're able to configure. So we're constantly fine-tuning how we configure things so that it makes it easier to swap out devices. If a device goes down, they can run out and swap it out, but we need it to be, if it happens at 7 o'clock at night, most of our staff aren't around. How do we make that so that it can happen very, quickly and efficiently, so that doesn't create a lot of disruption. And we're in the process of figuring that out. And then with that, one of the things that another thing that's on my agenda for this year is, we're a small group and we've always just known and shared knowledge, but my team is growing as well as our scope of what we support. So we're starting to develop a operations manual where people have already started to document this process and that process, but we need to pull that together into an operations manual so that at any given time, if we have new staff turnover, whatever happens, there's a single source of knowledge on how to do these things.
Sure, sure. Same would go with bringing in vendors and installers and outside companies, right? If you had to
Right.
take on a training burden or an onboarding activity to get them up to speed and able to work on your campus in the new environment.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess the thing I can't stress enough is that all of these documents are living documents. They're not like, okay, we documented this and it's done. We're constantly realizing that there's a little bit better way or a little bit different way, or they change something about the network, or the vendor, the manufacturer changes something about the gear. And XL Cloud is constantly evolving at this point. And so things it couldn't do before it can do now, and there's better and more efficient ways to do that. So we're figuring that stuff out, every day.
Yeah, we're in an industry of change. Other questions from members and attendees here? I've got one more canned if nobody else chimes in. So I'm curious, you mentioned learning the terminology, figuring out how to speak the language. What are some resources and learning opportunities for folks to do that? Is there a specific learning track or authoritative resource that folks can log in, or a book they can buy? How do you advise people take the plunge?
I don't know about the book. We're very fortunate. Honestly, until I came to RIT 6 years ago, my entire career was in IT. I kind of landed in AV by accident, and I landed in AV at the right time, right place at the right time, to see us through this transition. As well as my AV programmer, he moonlights as a system administrator, so he also spoke the language. That gave us a huge leg up. Having said that, though, my other staff, one of them is currently taking a networking class right now here at RIT. There's so many different classes and workshops and things you can take from just about any AV vendor. That there's online training available from pretty much all of them. That just the more you can do, the more you can understand about it, the better off you're going to be. And you don't have to get to the point where you're a network administrator. I hope I'm not over stressing that too much. You don't need to be able to do the network team's job. You just need to be able to understand the concepts and speak the language so that you can have a conversation with them.
Sure. I'm sure some of those skills can be rolled into, your hiring requirements and things like that too.
Exactly.
Remember a team where I was on where we interfaced with the University Architect's office a bunch, and we actually had an intern who was from the School of Architecture, and we thought, finally, we've got somebody with this skill set in-house. We can learn from each other, and it was a really, really good alignment. So Karen's asked a question in the chat. If anybody'd like to share their experience while you're thinking about that and typing, wanted to make sure everybody knew on the 20th, that will be March 20th, we're going to have our next session. Steve Bogart from Atlona is going to be our host. He's going to talk about IP video technologies. So bandwidth matters, bit rate, compression, different codecs, things like that. So we've been doing some prep. We've been talking about terminology and the glossary of terms and how to learn and things like that. Digging into deeper, more technical concepts. The rubber's really going to hit the road the next time. So look for that from Steve. He's actually got 2 different courses he's pulling from. So it should be a really interesting and useful hybrid for all of us. So that is on March 20th. Like I said, we've got 8 more sessions. We're planning something on a 3-week cadence up until our next session at the annual conference, all in person at NC State. So stay tuned for that. We'll get some sales copy into an invitation, and you'll see an invitation to join that session in the coming week. So last call for questions. Anybody have other things that we'd like to address, or should we all get a couple of minutes back? Comment from Nick. Yep. Or I'm sorry, from Rick about folks who might not seek this out themselves and need a little bit of encouragement. All right. Well, thank you all for joining. Watch for an invite for the session again in 3 weeks. And we'll get a link out with training resources like I'd mentioned in the chat, as well as a recording from this that you can dig into and review with your teams. So have a good rest of the day. Have a good afternoon, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, everyone.